Hello there. I'm finally here. Welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. I'm just going to set up our chat and we'll go from there. Let me see. Chat, live chat. If you're here watching the show just starting, jump in and say hello so I can make sure this is going. This week's discussion topics, as always, are Lakeisha, hello. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you. Our discussion topics, as always, are anything you think is newsworthy. Gary, newsworthy about racism, bigotry, and inequality in America. And unfortunately, that's pretty much everything. Like I always say, the show is meant to be an opportunity. Oh my gosh, Shirley, yay, you're here. Thank you. I'm so happy. An opportunity for viewers to speak their mind, and also to serve as a tool for white people to learn the truth about systemic racism in America. So jump in for anything. I know Kitchen Politics. You should, I don't know if you're friends with him on Facebook, but you should definitely get him over here because we need Kitchen Politics. Thanks, Lakeisha. So before we get started, if there's anybody watching who is new, I want to introduce myself. I'm Angry Soccer Mom. A lot of people tell me how guilty I am and that I do this out of guilt, and they couldn't be more wrong. I do this because I'm human, and every person should stand up and support real equality. And, so they can say I'm guilty, but that's not really it, to be honest. I don't want to sit there and do nothing in a world where people are doing horrific things, and I'm not just going to watch. So that's what I do. And so I open my big mouth and I speak the truth. I host this YouTube channel and a number of online communities. And so if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do. I would love it. Moppy, yay, I'm happy you're here. Welcome to the show. And my goal is to educate, and that's what I want to do. Again, white Americans are not leaders. They are not heroes. They are not saviors. We are way past any of that stuff. But God forbid we actually give a shit about our fellow humans and actually care. Just because we're born into this, it does not mean. Stevie, hello. Thank you for being here. It doesn't mean you sit and watch and do nothing. Doesn't mean you just say that's how it is. So that's my philosophy. And thank you. Thanks. I'm so happy. Shirley, thank you. You're so sweet. So enough about me and my big mouth. Tonight's topics, I wanted to start out with Pride Month and Trump and kind of confusing stuff. And Linda Fairstein, she's the woman who was a prosecutor for the people who, the young teens that are now men who were extremely unfairly prosecuted. I mean, just the more I read, the more I learn in what they call the Central Park Five. Actually, the Central Park Five case of those kids was the first thing I learned about Trump. So I know, Stevie, that was hilarious. I'm so sorry. And normally I do not take pride in other people's. I guess I'm just so darn beside myself that I was actually laughing at what the UK, Stevie is so funny. I can't believe all the things they did. And it kind of got me thinking. Sometimes it feels like the UK cares more than some Americans do. And I'm talking about white folks. And this show sometimes comes across that I'm really down on white people. And that is not my intentions. My intention is that I think we can do better than this. I have high expectations. I think we can learn and educate ourselves and grow to the point where we understand that us standing up and supporting our fellow humans who are Black, African American, brown, indigenous, from mixed cultures and everything is really standing up for us. Because if it can happen to them, guess who's next? I'm always citing Neiman Martin Niemöller, and he was a German pastor who talked about, he was actually kind of on Hitler's side, and as he learned more and more, he became total advocate against, for peace and against Hitler, and he was actually imprisoned, and for a while he got out. He was a German pastor who spoke to his college students and said, he wrote the kind of saying, I guess, poem, I'm not sure. First, they came for the unionists. I wasn't a trade unionist, so I did nothing. Next, they came for, and I know that's kind of a famous saying now, but he's the one. I learned about him when I was a little girl, and I truly believe that with all my heart, standing up for others is standing up for everybody. Because if we let them do it to others, we could be next. So enough of my preaching. If you have any topics you want to bring up, please jump in. If you know a ton, that's great. If I know nothing about it, jump in and tell us, and I'll read whatever you have to say. So the Linda Fairstein stuff is really huge. And then if we have time, I'll talk about Robert Reich, who's one of my favorite politicians and professors at Berkeley. And the last thing I wanted to add to the agenda, Jay Dizzle. Sergeant, hello, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Welcome to our show. Wanted to let you know that this Sunday I have a special program. It's a Q&A with Thomas, who is now a friend of mine. He's a wonderful man. And Linda, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thomas was a former leader of the Aryan Brotherhood in Mississippi. He led the state, and he now works to basically help people, learn and grow and understand about all the stuff. And he helps people who need to get out and come back to, regular life and settle in. He's incredible, and he'll answer anything. So don't be shy. It's a Sunday at 9, same YouTube channel. Surely, it's a shame people that railroad citizens into prison just to win a case are not prosecuted for their crimes. And you know what? You're not going to believe this. That's exactly what we're going to talk about later on. And I'd love your input. That's precisely what a lot of people are calling for now. So that's right in the topic. Exactly. And they should be. There should be laws governing. If this is the way I feel personally, if people can't act human, then there needs to be. Michael, welcome to the show. And Neil, welcome to the show. And if people can't act human, at least a certain level of decency. Now, I'm still talking about freedom. I'm not talking about ruling the world and making everyone do this and that. But certain safeguards, if you're a person working for the public and you choose not to work for the public, I think you need to be held accountable. And I definitely, I think that when people do crimes and there are people in power and they're supposed to be working for the people, absolutely. So I agree with you 100%. And we'll definitely get into that. Linda, my English family considers him a buffoon. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty right. Moppy, I heard the craziest stuff from people's mouth this week. Well, you'll have to share it with us. But anyway, thank you everyone for being here. And we will take lots and lots of comments today because it's just me. Stevie, it's against the law in London for cops to wrongfully accuse the innocent, and the penalty is up to 10 years in prison. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. I know in America, we like to balance our individual rights with the rights of society, and it's quite a balancing act. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I truly believe this is just my opinion, and I want to know what you guys think, so jump right in. If you work for the public as a prosecutor or as, whatever you're doing, as a police, as a teacher, there's certain minimum standards that you need to be able to uphold. And I'm not talking, making you do this, that, and the other that's against your will, but being honest is kind of a minimum standard to me. I don't know what you guys think. And I mean honest in that what that woman did was unconscionable. I understand job pressure. I really do. And maybe not pressure at that level, but being a human first is kind of important. So we'll definitely talk about that. Lakeisha, you were saying the deaths of Black Americans vacationing in the Dominican Republic and what is going on. I didn't get to do more research on that, but I would love for you to throw out stuff whenever you know, because I know you know a lot about it. I read about 3 stories on it, but I didn't really get quite enough to form a conclusive anything other than they need to tell America. But great. Yes, we'll definitely talk about that. Stevie, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. It's a great point that you made. Yeah, Lakeisha, poisoning. I know it was, I believe the last thing I read was that it was poisoning from a pesticide product that they were using, and they will not release that information. The reason it's imperative that they do so, and if you don't know what this case is, let me just really briefly, I'll tell you what I know, and then I know Lakeisha will jump in. There's been deaths of Black Americans vacationing in the Dominican Republic, and they've been organ stealing. Okay, that I did not read about, so you're gonna have to get us. Oh, geez. Okay, well, I read about it in a different case. I don't know if you're talking about the Dominican Republic case, the organ stealing thing. Oh, yeah, I've been reading about that, but not with it. So let me know what you mean. But for the Dominican Republic thing, people are dying, and there's actually a couple who didn't die who's back in the U.S., and they kind of want to know what poisoned them. They got incredibly sick, and they'd like to have a heads up and ask, I'm sure, the families of the people who died. So this is kind of a strange thing. It's a strange thing. I'm not sure what kind of relationship we have with, you know, the details of the relationship with the Dominican Republic, but they really need to be kind of transparent about this. But yeah, let's jump in anytime you want and tell me what's going on with that case, because I didn't really put it on my personal agenda today, but I want to know. So Linda, I got arrested for a DUI because I crossed a center line. It took a year for state's lab to come back to prove my innocence. But in the process, I lost my job, my son, and my mind. I now have the arrest record. Oh my God, Linda, that is, the bottom line is and this is just my kind of outgoing opinion with that kind of thing. Our supposed criminal justice system is, oh my God. Our criminal justice system is not for justice. It's for winning. And whenever you have a system that's supposed to be humane and righteous and just and moral and all that good stuff, and it's in a society that pretty much cares about greed over humanity, we're going to have some problems. And we have some, I don't think we have a system of justice. We have a system of people who want to win at any cost. And they don't care the circumstances. They don't care if you're guilty, and they don't care. I mean, it's disgusting, but we'll get into that later. Let me see what else. I'm so sorry that happened to you, Linda. That's a person's worst nightmare. Pretty much worst nightmare. Lakeisha, minibar alcoholic beverages and died within hours after she drank. Oh, after drinking it. That is the one I read about. So, wow. Poison. See, so I don't know. Michael, jump in anytime. Oh, thank you, Michael, for being here. I appreciate it. You're such a sweetheart. Thanks. I will not read that. Thank you. That's very cute. Linda, for the rest of my life, innocence is a societal issue that they use to justify their mistakes. Yeah, that is criminal. That is, and oh God, I know you're not alone. I know you're not alone. It needs dismantling. Gosh, don't even get me started. I am just so sorry I've heard more stories. Oh my gosh, I've heard more stories. Thank you for sharing. I love that you're outgoing, and you want to, like, you're not afraid to just speak the truth, Linda. Thank you so much. Stevie, and the young black man in California, the police had on his knees, suspected of robbery, over 20 guns aimed at him. Yes, I put that out. I actually put that on my YouTube channel yesterday in the 11th hour. That is, I don't know if people know about that. That story, whew, it was heartbreaking, just heartbreaking. This man, and I don't know a ton about it, but I definitely put it up there because it wasn't on YouTube. It wasn't on anything. And people need to know what's going on. I guess what I really wanted to stand out with that, this young man he basically had, I don't know, he said 20 guns. I thought it was 10 guns, but I mean, it doesn't matter, 10, 20. The man didn't have a weapon. He was on his knees. He had his hands in the air. And for a long time, these people had a gun on him. I think they were going to kill him. And this story, I just wanted people to know the story if you missed it, because there's so much going on. And gosh, Stevie, that's a good find, because I think a lot of people in the U.S. couldn't find that story. What's happened is this woman who happened to be on scene started videoing it, and she was hysterical. I mean, understandably so. These people had a gun on him, and they acted like they were going to kill him. I mean, he was a young black man. It's a typical scenario. And he was cooperating, and they were acting like he had done. I mean, they were acting like he was killing someone while the video was going. The way they were, it was really scary. And she came on there, and she basically verbally, very loudly advocated for them. She was hysterical. It was just heartbreaking. Check it out on my YouTube channel. I know it's there. It could be other places too. It was horrible. Thanks, Stevie. Absolutely. It was. I watched it 3 times and I couldn't even take it. But I'm glad you pointed that out. Linda, plus they publish it in the newspaper with your address. Oh my God. Yeah. They humiliate you, and you're not even, well, most people in jail in America haven't even had a trial. I mean, our system is, to say it's broken would be like the understatement of the century. It's disgusting and it's corrupt. And we all know it. So let me just see here. I'll read some more comments before I do my rant, which is kind of a crazy rant tonight. Oh, wow. Linda, just one of my little experiences, and I have plenty more. Gosh, we'll keep sharing, because this is exactly what this venue is for. I want to hear real stories and real talk. Let me just see if I skipped anyone. Anthony, hello. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that you are here. Awesome. Sorry, I'm like kind of behind. I think you wrote that a while ago. Linda, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Yeah, it's enraging to think about. Linda, I've also had my arm dislocated, been denied my constitutional rights. I could go on and on, but I'll listen for now. Oh, no, go on and on. Here's the thing. A lot of white folks, and I'm going to kind of ad-lib here. A lot of white folks don't quite get this basic tenet or idea that we find, let's say, black people, for example, 13, 14, whatever, 13% of the population, exponentially in an exorbitant amount, considering how much of the population there are, get all these things happening to them. All this corrupt, horrific brutality, police brutality, and just sick, horrible injustices. Do white people really think that it's not also happening to them? Sure, maybe not in the percentages that are so uneven, but I don't get it. If it's happening to black folks in this extreme, it's happening to at least some white people. It's like even the racists should be supporting, honesty and a true system of justice. But I guess they just don't get it. But anyway, I don't understand why. It's in everyone's best interest to have a transparent and very, very honest judicial system. And we pretty much have the opposite. So, I mean, pretty much. Sorry, I'm blabbing on. Anthony, I saw the tape on the other site. It was sad. It seemed like they really wanted to kill him. Makes me scared for black men. Oh, yeah. Anthony, it was a weird vibe I got too. It was, and the woman crying. Oh my gosh. Marco, hello. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show. Jump right in and say, oops, jump right in and say anything you want to say, and we'll go from there. Don't be shy. A lot of people who watch know a ton. I mean, they are really educated, and a lot of people are beginners just trying to learn. So it doesn't matter. Just jump on in. Neil, Missouri doesn't have expungement. Really? Tell me more. Tell me more about that, Neil. Linda, corrupt to say the least. Yeah, it's pathetic. Still doesn't, Linda, still doesn't clear arrest records in Missouri, Neil. Oh, I see. I got it. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Wow. Okay, I'll do one more little, you guys are going to be like, one more little mini commentary. I have a lot of opinions, obviously, and I'm a very privileged white person, so take it for what it is. But I feel like we have a responsibility as a society to take better care of the most vulnerable people in our society. What I mean by that, I mean taking care of vets. I mean taking care of people who don't have homes, homeless people, people who we just have, decided that they don't have a home, but whatever, or whatever. I don't know. I know you guys don't think that, but basically our society in general really does. Or guess what? We'd have that solved. There are solutions to police brutality. Tons of them. They work. We just don't use them. There are so many solutions we're not using. And people in prison, all people of any, ethnicity, we need to be treating with absolute care, and the most vulnerable people, whether we put them in that position, which we do, we cause a lot of the vulnerability, or we don't. We need to be absolutely hyper vigilant about their care, and we are not even remotely close. It's disgusting. I'm talking about the migrant kids and the parents that come. I'm talking about anybody who does not have power in this society. I'm totally into the Spider-Man thing. I know it's goofy, but it's true. With great power comes greater, I might be making this up, responsibility. And we just don't get it. And I am personally disgusted. I don't care what the person's done. I don't care what you think the person's done. You treat them like a human. And anyway, see, I knew I was going to get on a rampage. Moppy. Tommy Lawrence said there was a war on straight white men. Sorry. Hello. Yeah, right. White men run the world. Nobody is after them. Does she know what white men have been doing for years? Now, here's my comment on that, and you're going to be kind of shocked. It's very common for people in a group who, and this is just my take, you guys jump in and tell me, to feel persecuted a little bit because they don't really know all the facts maybe, or they don't really get it. And so they might not understand. But through education, these white men can learn to get it. I've seen many of them. And here's the thing. In the attempt to help and bring up all of the people who have been historically marginalized and devastated by this incredible inequality, we have to be careful not to go full circle. The continuum from far right to extreme left is not linear. It's a circle. And this is what I'm talking about. And I'm not, Moppy, this has nothing to do with you. It's just your comment kind of sparked that. One thing that turns a person with good intentions, and again, this isn't anybody. I'm talking about white folks, of course, as I always do, because I have absolutely no place talking about people who aren't white, because I don't live it. I don't know it. That would be, wow, out of my lane. What happens is people get so incensed with what's going on. They don't stop and think about what's really happening and specifics matter and nuances matter in these sort of things. For example, personally, I had somebody go after me because they said I kicked a Black person out of one of my groups, and that was not right. And they basically doxed me. They tried to get people to shut every group I had down. They went after me personally, and an entire group with 125,000 people basically were writing to me, telling me what a piece of shit I was and cursing at me. And that's a great example of basically fake liberalism. Fake. That's what they heard, so they pounced. Well, lo and behold, the real story was slightly different. My admins kicked her out. I vetoed her back in. Stupid me, being the it's like, just let her have another chance. Okay. And it wasn't a group for Black people. It was a group for all people. But these people didn't know and they didn't care. And what happened to me was really horrible. It was a horrible experience. And anyone who just looked into it would have known that the group is for all people. It's right on there, but they didn't care. So they made the story up, and I had hundreds of people writing horrific things and threatening me. So liberalism is awesome, but we gotta make sure every time somebody that something like that happens to somebody, it's taking away from the real times when white folks are really doing something horrific. This person was a personal friend of mine. I counseled her on the phone. I talked to her. I really loved her. And she decided she didn't like my group, just didn't like it. And she also told me she wasn't going to leave. And she was really horrific to the people in the group. So it was, anyway, just, I get what you're saying, but I know a ton of people from every single group that are just blah, like horrible. And I know a ton of people from every group that are amazing. So we got to be careful. And then again, Maki, I don't mean to come down on you, because right now we do have a white person problem in this country. Okay. It's not everybody, but it's a lot. And how do I know this? Because if we didn't, we wouldn't have systemic racism where it is. Because not that white folks are going to save, but we can help with the numbers, and we can support Black people in their quest for equity and equality, because we've never had it in America for them. And that's disgusting. So anyway, I was getting on a rampage, but I truly believe with all my heart that it is way past time for white Americans to start taking some racial responsibility. It doesn't mean guilt. It just means learn how to stand up for what's right and educate yourself about whitewash history. Okay, put a sock in it. Boom. Let me see here. We have some comments. Let me see. Oh my goodness. Back up. Yeah, the whole war on straight men, it's just more like they need to become aware. And so they're not used to being called out because they're the ones in power. So white men just need to educate themselves. I really, the war thing, I don't know if it's a war, but anyway. So Linda, yes, and it's worse for Black people. I live in a small town, primarily white, but we have met several Black people who have come under the gun like me. White, Black, purple, they aren't specific here. Yeah. And I know implicit bias alone would indicate that more people who are not Caucasian will get this. But white people still get it too. And that white people don't realize this and that they have a common plight is kind of terrifying. You know, like, oh, we'll let them, do what do you think's gonna happen to you sometime? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. People are so selfish and don't get me started. Moppy Stevie says Tommy sucks. I don't even know who that is. It's probably a good thing, I guess. Neil, expungement laws, Senate Bill 588 with the Missouri expungement law process has been created where 1,900 eligible offenses can be sealed. Thank you for that. Okay, I got you now. I got you. Linda says, Neil, you can expunge your court record, but not the arrest. And if they don't get it And if they don't get it in the system, they will rearrest you. I'm not sure. I have 1 year before I can try to file clemency. That ought to be a joke. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I'm kind of butting into your private conversation, so sorry. I mean, kind of semi-private. It looks like Missouri is behind the times, Neil says. I'm sorry for what you're going through. Linda, thank you, Neil. Okay, Gary, one of my anti-racism groups banned a Black homophobe. He was awful and very angry, tried to get even for being banned. Yeah, Gary, that is a fantastic point. One of the things that does come up, and it's a very slippery slope for me personally as a white woman who's privileged, oh my gosh, as a white woman who's privileged, I have to I cross the line a little, and I'm not sure, it's hard not to. Les, thank you for being here. Yay. I have, in the groups, I run some groups that accumulate like together as a, if I added them all together, around 50,000 people in different groups. And every once in a while, I do get a Black person who is absolutely homophobic off their rocker. And a lot of times it's with transgender women they have problems with. And it's really, really tough because I have to run my groups as intersectional. If I allowed that kind of bigotry, what else would I allow? So there's a zero tolerance policy, and it's really hard because a lot of times the people who are feeling very strongly, it's for religious reasons, and they say, I'm butting into Black people's space, but it kind of crosses over because that's something I also do is support and advocate for all people in historically marginalized groups. And I'm really big with the LGBTQ community. And so it gets really tough. It's really tough because how do you support one when the other one, it's tough. I know you guys know what I mean. Moppy, according to Jordan Peterson, racism doesn't exist, LOL. Yeah. I kind of hate to say it, but I think a lot of people are should be past that. It's not a debatable issue. Racism exists. Systemic racism is the basis of what our nation was created out of, founded on, and built and made wealthy on. So it's people who deny racism are, I don't even know what to say. I can't take them seriously. What do you guys think? I mean, they're so delusional. Anyway, but there's a lot of them. And that's why I try to educate people with our real racial history. Part of the problem is, and just jumping in, a lot of folks who are white don't look at themselves as in the group of being white. It's they're just, the normal people, and everyone else is an other. We white folks, and I'm not speaking for all white folks, obviously, but we don't see ourselves as in that white group, like maybe in the olden days where somebody was an Italian or a German. We're all just white. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but in general, and this has been a pretty obviously documented thing, we don't really think of ourselves as having a white history. It's just history. So that's part of the problem. I mean, so that just getting someone that's why people get so defensive, because they're like, not all white people. Well, it's because they don't quite get it's about a system. It's not about them and their experience. So, okay, I am blabbing. But great comment, Gary. Thank you. Linda, I'd like to get more of a chance to chat. Well, jump in, and we should probably have you on here. I'm thrilled. And Les is here. It's okay, Kim. It's not private, just sharing some of my experiences. And I love it. Shirley, the lady said her husband had been killed a year earlier. Which are we referencing? I am always out of it. Tell me more, Shirley, because I want to know by the police. Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. Got it. Yes, the woman who was from the video that I believe if it hasn't gone viral, I'd be shocked. She was standing videoing this young man, this young black man in about a mile from where I used to work, actually, in California. Actually, a little bit near Compton, but another place I used to work. And they looked like they wanted to kill him. And he was cooperating perfectly fine. And she was videoing. And as she videoed, you could just see her just absolutely, her devastation growing. And she was reliving it. Her husband or her fiance or her loved one had been murdered by police. And this is according to her, just a few years back. So she was hysterical. I mean, it was incredibly heartbreaking. And she may have saved his life. We'll never know, thank God, because they didn't shoot him. She begged those police to come and just take him and don't hurt him. And I saw that and I just, ooh, thank you for sharing that, Shirley. I usually catch on eventually once I read more. Linda, wow, organ stealing. Just watching a show about the Dominican killings now. Been out of touch for a while. Yeah, I meant to get to that and I just never quite made it to it. But anyway, jump right in. I so appreciate you being here. My rant today is very personal to me, as all of this obviously is. Unlike my other stuff that's not personal. Okay, it's all personal. But I hope that you can relate, and I want to know what you think because it really matters to me. Americans, and again, I'm not trying to bag on white folks, but we're in the numerical majority. We started all this. We need to help end it. I feel a strong responsibility, and I am not sorry to say I feel like a lot of white folks need to take it on themselves to educate themselves and not accept basically what I consider a crime against humanity, which is systemic racism. So I'm not saying they have to be the saviors of the world because we're way past that. But to educate yourself and care about your fellow humans? Anyway, I could go on and on. Americans are under the impression that we are the greatest nation in the world. This type of thinking is actually kind of reminds me of the developmental stages that a classic teenager, growing up goes through. Most teens go through stages where pretty much, if you're the parent, your IQ drops about 50 points. And I'm not sure because I don't have mine back yet. What I'm trying to say is the teen knows everything and refuses to give any credence to any wisdom of others that, maybe they had some experience, like maybe mom and dad might actually kind of know a little bit of stuff, but it's just not going to happen. Our nation kind of reminds me of a young teen sometimes. We're a young country. But you see, America is a country who we know it all. We know it all. We imagine ourselves knowing the best, most modern ways of doing things. We refuse to look to others, other nations, for practices that have been successful because our way is superior. And you think about that. There are nations that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, but we know what we're doing and we're not going to look for any best practices outside of America. I think that's helping, to lead us to our downfall. We are arrogant. We think we're superior. And just like some teens who have to learn the hard way, America is stubborn and just doesn't get it. But the difference is the teens usually eventually succumb to maturation. I don't know if our country's going to do it. The boasting and narcissism that teenagers do are replaced with inner strength that shows greatness, silent greatness, without the bravado. This is where America and teenagers' developmental stages differ. America just doesn't seem to be maturing. I thought we were getting there under Obama. I thought we were getting there before. But one good thing about Trump, if you want to call it good, he's brought out the truth. And this nation is nowhere near understanding our own racial history, the history that puts white folks who are uneducated believing that Black people and African-American people and brown people and indigenous people are the reason for all their struggles, rather than looking towards the 1%, the wealthiest white elites who rule our nation in an oligarchy, and at this point in time, who very much probably, seems to me, would like to have a regime. And as you know, the fall of Rome, that's kind of how it goes. You're either going to go a little more socialist and start closing the gap between the wealthiest people owning pretty much all the riches and everyone else struggling, or you're going to close that gap, or it's going to turn into a regime. Freedom isn't free in America like we think it is. It's really unfortunate. So unlike the teenagers, with parents, our nation, we don't have a safety net to fall back on. We're on our own, doing this country and culture that is really leading us down a very bad path. And I get the pendulum swings back and forth politically. I've never seen it swing this hard for this long. And I'm scared. Sure, we can read history books. We can read about what happens to nations like ours when we think freedom is free, but we won't learn from our past because we're America and we're Americans. We know better. Americans have taken for granted the people who've come before us. We've taken them for granted. And we've forgotten the price that they've paid for our freedoms that we don't even think about. And I'm talking about white folks here. We got complacent and rested on the laurels of our past as other nations have passed us by. We've done some of the cruelest, most inhumane things human beings can do. And we've not faced it. We've not apologized for it. For God's sakes, we're still doing it. How do you apologize for something? It's like your spouse popping you in the face and saying, forgive my abuse. We're still doing it. So don't get me wrong. I mean, we were never perfect, but I think we have one of the best documents on the planet called the Constitution. And the truth is, if we stay this course much longer, I think we're done. We have this framework to keep our democratic republic alive. But the question is this: do we have the fortitude and intelligence to make the socio-cultural changes we need to survive this strong pendulum push towards nationalism and hate? Pure hate is what it is, really. It's ignorance with a ton of hate. Or will our arrogance lead to our demise? What do you guys think? Will our arrogance lead to our demise? I don't want to be the soothsayer of doom, but I'm not holding my breath on getting through this. It's time for the average American who isn't practicing speaking out, who knows a little, mostly from the news, and doesn't do their own research, to stand up for their nation. Freedom isn't free. Acknowledge it. Freedom isn't free. And to take action to make a difference. I truly believe that too many white folks, it's not the extremists, the KKK types, and I mean, they're way past. It's not the people who are really trying to educate themselves and learn. It's the people in the middle who think being nice to everybody. It's the white folks who think, I believe in freedom. I treat people the way I'd want to be treated. I treat people based on their character. I'm sorry, it's not enough. It's not enough to just be nice to everybody. Okay? This nation and the wealthiest whites who run it are benefiting from systemic racism. And they are not giving it up without a fight. And if more white folks would step up to the plate and give a shit. Because you know what? Little do they know that all this racism is hurting them just as bad. They just don't realize it. They're actually going against their own best interest. Our best interest as a white person who is not, the wealthiest person running the nation is to unite and look to leadership. Black women and Black men know what they're doing. They've been doing it for hundreds of years. To humble ourselves and stuff a sock in it and listen and learn and unite. If we unite, There'll be no stopping the reconstruction of this nation. Because right now, the wealthiest elites have all the white folks conned. It's a really bad con. It's a sick con. It's not just hurting Black people, African Americans. It's hurting the white folks too. They just don't know it. So that's my little speech. I think this election is our last chance to halt the oligarchy and the destruction of the middle class. It's time for the government to actually represent the people. That's just my take. You'll notice that there are scores of issues that Americans overwhelmingly agree upon. I'm talking everybody. Common sense gun control, humanistic health care that's very inexpensive or free, colleges that are affordable, living wages. These are not partisan things. Everybody, like 70% of Americans plus on a lot of these, okay? But we're not having them done. That means that our representatives are not representing us. And there's a reason. Big money. It's all about greed over humanity. And I know everyone watching knows that, but we're not being represented. This is no longer a real democratic republic. If 70% of Americans from every party, every walk of life want common sense gun laws and we don't have it, we're not in charge. We're not a government for the people. And I don't know if people really get that. So I just wanted to point that out. My rant is over. Now I will take, my rant is over. Yeah, right. I've just begun. I want to back up and take comments and questions. And it's going to take me a second because every time I put something on here, it scrolls back. Okay. Got it. Linda, wow, organ stealing. Just watching. Okay, I already said that. Sorry. Moppy, I feel like they're going to wipe us out, wipe out Black people. Good luck trying. Yeah, it's really, really, yeah. I could totally see thinking that way. Surely, I think a lot of white people have no idea about systemic and institutionalized racism. Absolutely, 110%. In fact, that's how I started years ago, just teaching white folks about the system they live in. And I know that sounds belittling, and I don't mean it that way, but they don't know. 50%, last I checked, and that was a couple of years back, 50% of white adult Americans believe we're in a post-racial era. The reasons they give, because slavery ended, because 1964 Civil Rights Act was put into play, and because Obama's president. Those are the three reasons. We're in a post-racial era. That's half the white adults in America. And that was done by, I cross-checked that from a couple of really good research places that do, polling. And you're absolutely 110% correct. Everything I've looked at is the same. They don't understand. And another thing they don't understand is when you talk about racism, they think you're talking about them saying the N-word or them burning. Oh, I'm not racist because I don't say the N-word or burn crosses on my lawn. That's the old-fashioned definition. Today's racism is systemic and it's very covert and it's denied. So anyway, great comment, Shirley. See, I'm blabbing on and on. Anton, hello. Thank you for being here. I will try to read what you, this is his kind of like slogan. I'm very happy you're here. America, land of the thief, home of the slave, something, something, this demonic, fascist, murderous, gluttonous, insidious, corrupt society and all its allies, USA under Satan's authority. And I don't blame you one bit for thinking that, because this is not how life is supposed to be. It just isn't. Thank you for that, Anton. And Linda, you're right, Shirley. Yeah. Linda, we are a good nation, just screwed up inequality that we preach. And now with the great gas bag, we are a joke. Yeah. He's really brought it out, hasn't he? I think a lot of folks always are telling me I hate white people. I feel guilty. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm pissed. I don't want to live in a nation that boasts total bullshit and lies. Liberty and justice for all. Oh, right. Yeah, no, liberty and justice for white folks if they have enough money is what we do. If they have enough money and enough power. I don't want to live a lie. I don't live a lie in other areas of my life, so why would I want to live a lie with this? And it's disgusting to me. And people are being killed. People's lives are destroyed. Like I always say, those police that were on that young man, I don't know if he was a teen or a 20-something, the black man with all those police and their guns to terrorize. You don't have to kill anybody. You just have to have a threat. That threat alone hanging over everybody's head who's a black person or anyone non-Caucasian, I guess you could say, that's terrorism. That's a crime against humanity. To make your own citizens live with that kind of just culture. It's unconscionable, and anyway, I'm blabbing. It's so upsetting. So we are a good nation, Linda. We are. However, I have high expectations. I expect, and I know you do too. I expect more. We are not near any type of level that is acceptable. None. And of course, individual white folks are, but this is a system. I'm talking about a system. I'm not talking about any one person. Not going to name names. Just kidding. Gary, Shirley, they know and they don't care. Yeah. Linda, I'm ready to go to Cape Town and stay with my cousins there. Yeah, it's getting scary. Shirley, it's the white supremacists that are the problem for us, many who run this country. Yes. Yes. And when I said I can't change the white supremacist ones, what I meant was, and I think you caught this, is I can't help a white supremacist decide to be like, they're past the point of, the problem is they aren't wearing their sheets anymore. And I'm not trying to speak for you, Shirley, but they're teachers, they're lawyers, they're politicians. Oh my God, they are politicians. If you listen to Congress talk, oh my God, they don't know our own racial history. Congress does not know white folks in Congress. They don't know our own racial history. You can tell when they're talking. It's like, oh my God. And there has been infiltration in every area at every level. Even the FBI 13 years ago found tons of infiltration in 3 or 4 different states of KKK people into the police force. And I don't really know if much was done about it. I know at the time people were arrested, but like I said in our last show and the last video I made, we know how to stop police brutality in America. We just don't want to. There are tons of, they're not difficult things, ideologies that I've talked about that. I don't want to go into that, but we just don't want to. And so don't be living the lie. If you're a white person listening, don't be living that lie that, we just don't know the answers. Yeah, we do. We just don't want to use them. America is, if you're a white person listening and you're just kind of learning about all this stuff, take what you think about the racism in America, what you know today, multiply it by a gazillion, and you may be slightly close. This nation was built on the near genocide of the natives who lived here, and it was made wealthy and prosperous on the backs of humans who are forced into an enslaved status, just so white folks could get rich and be basically lazy and be horrific. And that is the basis of everything that happens in our country and our culture. And until we understand that and know our real racial history, we're going to be doomed. So anyway, I will stop blabbing. Like I said, I lied. Let me see. So surely it's the white supremacists that are right. And they won't tell you they're white supremacists, people who are listening. Oh no, they'll make every excuse in the book, but it's true. Linda, it took me a minute to wrap my head around it. I'm learning and trying to educate myself. JR, message held. Uh-oh. JR, Americans are stupid. If you walk around with an AK-47 in a damn grocery store, they will arrest you and take your license to own a gun away, and rightly so. Well, sometimes they will, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. Tell me more about what you're referring to, because I want to know more. If you're referring to something, a specific case, or just in general, Americans just aren't bright. You know, just like when we go to court and we're on jury duty, if you have a formal education, they boot you off. And it's true, because it's easier to influence a person who is not educated. And I don't mean formally. Don't even think I'm going there. I'm talking, you can educate yourself without formal education. I'm talking about thinking, critical thinking skills, analysis, and not being the zombie, like the zombie person who just follows along. Actually looks into stuff. People who realize the fairness doctrine is long gone. News does not have to be fair and honest. I mean, I think somebody told me this, and I don't know if it's true, that in Canada, they call Fox News entertainment news. If you are Canadian, you have to tell me, because I think that's just hilarious. But yeah, we have some problems. Let me see. Let me scroll up. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. Uh-oh. Let me see. Okay. Wow, a lot of people have been saying stuff. Right. Shirley says, Linda, with all due respect, it's never been a good nation for us. Right, absolutely not. It's never been right. And that's a very important point. Thank you, Shirley. Yeah. And I understand what Linda's trying to say, but the truth is, for non-Caucasians, and especially Black people and African Americans, never. Unfortunately. JR, America has a bunch of empty slogans. Yeah, well, I think part of the problem is, and I agree with you, the empty slogans are these wonderful ideals that our founding fathers came up with. And they are wonderful ideals, but a lot of times we've kind of circumvented them a little bit. Our Constitution is an amazing document. I mean, it really is. And our founding fathers had a lot of problems. I mean, a lot of them owned slaves. A lot of them did things that are unconscionable. And obviously that is very wrong. But they also did a few things right. Sadly, I mean, it's not very wrong. It's unconscionable, despicable, sick, and everything. They also did a few things right, okay, in that they made a system that can work. It's just, I guess they just didn't realize the manipulation that could be done to it. And, I'm not gonna put anybody in a black and white area, because the truth is most people fall somewhere in the gray area. And this nation has a lot of problems, but we have a document that's pretty damn amazing to fall back on. And if only we could educate our population to understand. That's kind of my point, I guess. But great point, Shirley. It has never been good for people, for all people. Absolutely not. How could it be? We still don't have true equity, equality, and a fair justice system and everything. So, okay. Let me see. So yeah, it is a bunch of slogans, and it would be lovely if we could live up to some of those slogans. It really would be, because some of those slogans are amazing, but we just don't get it. We just don't get it. But anyway, now I'm really blabbing. Shirley says, no, speak what you know, and I will tell you what I know. Shirley. Gary, read Asylum by Morris Skyer. I don't know if I'm saying that right. His recollections of Nazi times. So like now here. Yeah, I've read a ton about, Germany and what went on. And I follow Robert Reich. He's one of my favorites. And I read almost everything he writes, and he's got a lot to say. He's got a lot to say about all this. Let me see. Thank you for that. Great. Gary is incredibly intelligent and definitely a great great advice coming from him. Michael, yeah, I hate America first. We hate Thomas Jefferson. Michael, I don't hate Thomas Jefferson. You know that. Here's a primary problem with the untrained human brain. Extrapolating from the particular to the general. I'll take my leave again. Oh, extrapolating. Jesus, I can't read. Extrapolating from, yeah, and I think, you know, Michael, honestly, if you're here, I think it's a really, really huge tendency to do, because we want to be kind of like that. We want to be in our minds. It's just like being from A to Z. We don't want to be in the middle of the alphabet, because that's a hard place to kind of make tangible. And I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but it's easier to be completely one-sided and say, this is the way everybody is. Again, I'm talking about a system. I'm not talking about individuals. There are billions and, you know, thousands of individuals that this doesn't apply to. But in general, it's the system that causes the damage. So I'm not 100% sure. JR, military style weapons should be only used by military. Great point. Moppy, I love how they say stop living in the past, but always finding ways to bash Obama, a past president. Yeah. Stop living in the past is an obnoxious way to say, I don't know my racial history. I don't realize that things in the past continue to have horrific, damaging repercussions today. So it's like, once again, it's like a spouse punching their partner and saying, why can't you, punching them in the face and saying, why can't you forgive me? It was in the past. It's like, no, we're doing it now. It's happening now. Okay. We haven't made up somehow for all the things that went on and are still going on. So yeah, that's a great point. People say that because they're deniers. They deny systemic racism, and they don't know our own racial history, and it's kind of sad. Let me see here. Linda, oops, it's tragedy that keeps perpetuating my, thank you for listening, Shirley. Just a tragedy, okay. Oh, you don't have to keep comments short, but it does make you not be able to write. It's kind of a pain in the bottom. Let me just go back. Sorry to jump around. I would love eventually for this show to be a phone-in, because then I won't have to read comments and I'll have your voice, and that would be amazing. So tell all your friends to come on here. Let me see here. Neil, I hate to bring it up again, but we need to be prepared for FEMA camps. Neil, bring it up anytime you want. In fact, I really would love you to come on and talk about that. Okay? Because I know you're really knowledgeable about that. Linda says, thank you for listening. Michael, white supremacists do not run the country. Rich oligarchs do. They don't care about racism. They use white supremacists to maintain their power. Excellent point. Michael is brilliant. And he gets this stuff like, I'm actually reading his book right now, and it's amazing. It's not quite published yet, but I have my personal copy. But yeah, I'm going to read that one more time. White supremacists do not run the country. Rich oligarchs do. They don't care about racism. They use white supremacists to maintain their power. And that is something that we've discussed a ton of in this show and in some of my videos. When I always say, and the wealthiest white rich folks in America, thank you for your service. And that is, thank you for being racist to the other white folks. I ended like 5 or 6 videos in that, because we're doing their dirty work for them to keep them rich. But that's a whole nother story. Great point, Michael. I never read things twice. Okay, I lied. Only by accident. Linda, just a tragedy. My heart is with you. Let me see. Yeah, Moppy. America was built off lies. Of course. Manifest destiny. No, we want to take your land. I mean, it's like, give me a break. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. Okay. Michael, I hear your hate white people message loud and clear, and I'm OUT out. I am so sorry, because you are so smart, and that is not what my message is. But I mean, if that's what you think it is, I guess there's nothing I can really do. But that is absolutely, I do not hate white people at all. I actually believe white folks can do better. And I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but most white folks don't know a single thing about our racial history. They know there was slavery and they know that it ended and now we're here. And that's pretty much it. And state to state, the textbooks are horrible. I've looked at a number of them. I've read about a number of them. They don't teach our real racial history. It's whitewashed history. Okay, so I think it might be hard sometimes if someone is really, really well read and really, really smart to realize you're in the minority numerically. Most white folks, they don't know any of this stuff. And how do I know this is because I have groups of thousands of people that I work with over the years. And they don't know a lot of this stuff. They really don't. It's amazing. Neil, I'm referring to Black people who will probably be the first to be put in FEMA camp prisons, and then the people of other colors, and then the whites that are supporting Blacks and others of color. Yeah. And Neil, you're going to have to explain that because I don't think a lot of people know a ton about that. I think what we're talking about is if this does keep going in the direction that we think it is. A lot of us think it is. I don't know. It's either going to be a regime or we're going to get that guy out of here. And I think personally, this is our last chance. This election, I think it might be too late. It might just be too late, but I don't know. But yeah, Neil, tell us more. Gary, Neil, my elderly friend is terrified that she will be arrested and sent to a camp for not supporting Trump. She remembers World War II very well and was a history teacher. Also very into politics. Oh my God, that is heartbreaking. Yeah, people who remember. Actually, I just read an article right before I came on here saying that, and I don't know if other presidents did this, but Trump's looking at the same places that they interned the Japanese Americans to put some of the kids, to house some of the children who have crossed the border, the southern border. I mean, it's not good. And if you've seen, I don't know if any of you saw that horrible video where they stuffed all these humans, these people from Central America and South America into a room that fit like 100 people, and there's like 5. It was just horrible. The conditions and the children dying and the I could just go on and on. The whole thing with the southern border, and we are witnessing criminal, inhumane behavior. But we're also witnessing something that I was reading in Michael's book, and that's the fall of our democracy. We're standing here watching. And again, white folks, we started this. It's time for us to take some racial responsibility and some American responsibility. Okay? Like growth and kind of evolving. We need to stand up. And I, of all people, do not like public speaking. If you only knew, oh my God. But it's not about us. We've got to be in a very uncomfortable spot. It's not about us. It's about our fellow humans and our nation. And I think we're losing. Martin, welcome here. I hope you're still here. I've been blabbing so much. I'm so happy you're here. Jump right in. We're just talking and talking. Gary, her brother-in-law was an undersecretary of state. Interesting. So she has a reason to be terrified. Yeah. Big, tall. Let me see here. Yeah, it's a horrible way to live. Big, tall white guys still run the country and are about 88% of all the billionaires. So that's the extreme bias we are dealing with in this country. Thank you, Martin. Great point. Yep, it's all about greed and making money. JR, if a civilian walked around with a weapon in Europe, 50 people would call the cops immediately, and you would have a SWAT team there really fast. It's crazy. You've been so used to people having guns. Yeah. In America, I think I know what you're talking about. Like, like that poor kid who, I think it was a kid. I don't know. He could have been in his 20s, but it seemed like he was like a teenager almost. You never know, because he looked awfully young, having 10 to 20 guns pulled on him in California. That's terrifying. He was cooperating. And I don't know if you saw the video. Again, we were talking about it earlier. Let me see. Linda, thanks for letting me share. Look forward to more learning, Shirley. Oh, excellent. JR, every country in the world has a constitution. Okay, I was I was kind of referencing ours with regards to our democratic republic, and kind of keeping that kind of thing going, where the people who we do have represent us actually represent us. Unfortunately, we're kind of losing that, or maybe lost it already. Gary, we all do. Linda, we will talk, Shirley. Would love it. So many great people on this show. Oh yeah, and you too, my friend. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. I just love everyone's input. This is not a show about me knowing stuff. This is a show about people knowing stuff. Like, the viewers know more than me. Usually I'm just the big mouth that comes on here, kind of like facilitates it. But yeah, we have incredibly knowledgeable people. Surely look forward to it, Linda. Yeah. Linda, I love how you are so open to learning. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. And good night to Linda, because she has to go to bed. And thank you so much for being here, Linda, if you're still here. You're a wonderful, wonderful asset. Shirley says, good night to Linda. Neil, Kim, you were right. We are headed in that direction, and we need to be worried when and how it will happen. I will tell you more. Yeah, you're going to, yeah, I'm going to have Neil come on, and I've already asked him. He's already said yes, at some point, to talk more about Neil. If I can toot his horn for him, he didn't ask me to, but I want to. He ran a very, very great syndicated radio show for years and years and years. And he's no longer on the air right now, but he is extremely knowledgeable about all these things that people need to talk about. So he is a great asset, and I'd love him to come on and talk about FEMA. It's kind of scary. Martin, but I just wanted to tell you guys that. Martin, one good thing about Trump dump, he's caused the quadrupling of donations to the ACLU and to the Democratic Socialists of America. That is true. Very, very good. And that is a great point. And also, if I can add to that, it's brought it out in the open. Our systemic racism and a lot of personal racism and feelings of superiority, which, don't even get me started, has been brought out in the open more than I've ever seen in my lifetime. It's the only good thing is now we're actually talking about it more than we were. Not enough. White folks aren't, but more than we were. And another point, you can't ignore it and pretend it's not there anymore. I mean, you can, but we have a president who's overtly racist, trying to, and attempting, and actually creating more systemic racism. He's not taking us back to where we were before 64. He's taking us way back, way before. So it's very disturbing, and everybody should be incredibly concerned. Not just people who are personally being impacted. All the white folks should be too. And that they're not is, we have a white person problem in America. We can do better than this. I believe in white folks. We can educate ourselves. We have to be better than this. This can't be our best because our nation's dying right before our eyes. Neil, oh, good night to Linda. And yes, we will talk. And Neil, you are blushing. Well, don't blush. You did a great thing, and I want everyone to know about it. He is a great resource to me. He's a great resource to me and to everybody. So while you're thinking of other topics that you might want to bring up, go for it. I wanted to mention, under the guise of intersectionality, the LGBTQ community and people who are not, straight, I guess you could call it, Trump's really did a number on them. Trump's racist and bigoted and unfair policies have not spared the LGBTQ community and the people who deserve equality in it. Despite his promise to be a friend to people who were born LGBTQ, he's been battling their human rights under this administration. It's all very strange and contradictory. He constantly talks about all the things, all this great stuff about, people who are gay, people who are trans, people who are born that way, and yet everything he actually does is taking away their human rights, trying to roll back everything that President Obama was able to do. So despite his promise to be friends, he is not a friend. It's been quite strange. I mean, for God's sake, signing on Mike Pence to be the vice president on his ticket, I think that's a pretty big clue that this administration is not supportive of people who have differences. I mean, my God, ooh, that's your big hint, him. I mean, I'm not just talking about Trump and his, the Central Park 5 that he tainted the jury, just everything. I could go on and on. Martin, Kim, I agree. Trump's trying to take us back to the 1920s. Of course, the capitalists like the 1920s too, but that was prior to all the regulations and taxations on them. Yeah, it's kind of disgusting. He's trying to, we got to get him out, you guys. I mean, the way I look at it, vote for whoever you want for the primaries. Get your best, your best guy or gal in, but for the love of God, whoever wins and runs against him, please don't not vote. People voting for, write-ins and all that destroyed us. And I get it. There's fake liberals and this and that, but we gotta make a stop. He wants to be a king, I mean, he wants to be king. Thanks, Martin. I agree. So this month, the U.S. embassies, I don't know if you guys are following this story, around the world received instructions from Washington not to raise the rainbow flag for Pride Month, which is a symbol of gay rights and representative of our quest for equality and support for equality. On the public-facing flagpoles during the LGBTQ month of Pride. And I don't think this has been done. It was suggested that perhaps these things should be flown inside the embassy's courtyards. So it's almost as if, that's quite a message. The U.S. is embarrassed to stand up for equality for people who are born non-heterosexual. I mean, I'm not surprised, but, it's just that Trump vowed to become the champion of gay rights during his convention in 2016. And he's been pretty much the opposite of that. In 2019, the Trump administration made a ban on transgender people who work in the military. Interestingly, the military and the White House, before Trump got there, had put out a huge report saying that it is absolutely not impacting anything in anything but a positive way. And it was his own government, but he shoved that to the side and he mandated that all new service people must adhere to the standards associated with their biological sex. Wow. Just wow. He truly just doesn't get it. People are born that way. Oh my God, don't even get me started. The ban doesn't impact people already serving, but it actually kind of does because it increases the potential for discrimination, harassment. And one of the videos I did had a decorated soldier who runs, I wasn't sure what it was, if it was, he runs one of the military branches. And this guy said, if you cannot respect and treat everybody the way our military standards needs to be, then get out. And I just could listen to him over and over again. This is a white guy standing up in front of hundreds of military people who were, at lower ranks, saying, if you cannot deal with somebody who is born in the LGBTQ community. If you cannot deal with someone's color of their skin, then get out. And I was like, say it again, say it again. But anyway, so the ban does impact all people. We just got to remember, most people who are transphobic don't have a single solitary close friend who is a person who's transgender. Most people who are severely, overtly racist don't have a single close friend who's not white. There are parallels. I'm sorry. Yes, you can pretend to not be in the LGBTQ community. And there are huge differences between racism and homophobia. Huge. But there are also some parallels. And that is that most ignorant people who don't have any personal connection end up being the most hateful. So it's kind of this prominent evangelist Franklin Graham said that the gay pride flag is offensive to Christians. I guess he thinks he speaks for all Christians. Apparently it's more offensive than the fact that Trump had an affair with a pornography actress while his wife was carrying their child, and then denied the affair, got caught paying someone off for the affair. I mean, it's like, come on. It's terrible. So it'd be nice, and I think it's going to backfire, his talking about this kind of thing and being so unsupportive. A huge percentage of Americans absolutely support equality for people in the LGBTQ community. It's just like another thing that for some reason the people overwhelmingly support it, but for some reason our representatives aren't following the will of the people. That's terrifying. It's just another one of those things. According to the Gallup polls, 1 in 4 Americans say that same-sex relationships and marriage should be illegal. That's 1 in 4. So that's quite the numerical minority. Trump's bigoted policies are a huge change from 2011, where Secretary Clinton told the United Nations Human Rights Council that some have suggested that gay rights and human rights are separate and distinct, but in fact, they are one and the same. That's like a big quote of hers. And don't pounce on me. I am not advocating that Hillary is my favorite. I'm just saying she happened to be Secretary of State then. That's the same year President Obama issued a memo instructing all U.S. agencies abroad to engage and promote and protect human rights of people who are in the LGBT community. And that is something to be proud of. The U.S. aimed to be supporting people in the LGBT community around the world, and it's an integral part of our foreign policy. Not allowing the flags is really, really bad. So the Trump administration has even shut down the website that provides key information on the subject. There are nations where you are put to death for being gay. And many people in the United States and around the world believe that Trump's flag order sends a chilling message to other countries, and it is scary around the globe. The next topic we're going to talk about is the Central Park 5. I was told by a very nice source that they do not, the men who are exonerated do not want to be called the Central Park 5 anymore. I haven't confirmed that, but this person was wholeheartedly telling me that, and she sounded like she knew information. Gary, my trans friends include several veterans. Odd, Trump dislikes them, but he was a draft dodger. Yeah, it's always a strange, lots of hypocrisy and tough stuff with him. Gary, great points. Yeah, Graham is as evil as Trump. Oh, yeah, it definitely seems that way. So the next topic that I hope people want to talk about, unless there's something else, is Linda Fairstein. Linda Fairstein, there's actually breaking news, which I'll definitely get into later on. about who she is, and I'm going to do a little recap for people who don't know. But the breaking news was that the Manhattan District Attorney, Elizabeth Lederer, a prosecutor in the breaking news is that she has apparently resigned from her Columbia Law School, where she served as a part-time professor after a group of Black students asked her to quit. And that was kind of breaking news. I don't know if you heard that, but let's get into the real story, and then that'll come up later. This week, Linda Fairstein received even more backlash after the mini-series When They See Us premiered this month earlier on Netflix. Fairstein was the prosecutor who went after the 5 young teens in the case known as the Central Park 5. And I'm referring it only as that because that's what people know about it. I don't know. I know that I was told that the men who are now exonerated, they had done nothing wrong and their lives were taken and stolen. They want it to be called something else. I don't know what that something else is. So for now, I kind of need to, for having commonality and people understanding, I'm going to use that, but I absolutely will be switching it to. Fairstein was in charge of their interrogation and the investigation. Their interrogation was a classic nightmare, a racist nightmare from your worst fears. The teen boys were tricked and forced into confession, for people who don't know, of a crime they didn't do. They were lied to, they were manipulated, and they didn't have an attorney present, and their parents weren't there at first, and it was horrible. They were questioned for hours and hours, called liars, told that their friends in the other room were giving them up as rapists. The case was a woman jogger, and I know most people listening probably know, but some of the people who will listen afterwards might not know. It's a horrific crime of a young woman who was jogging in Central Park and who was viciously raped and basically left for dead, murdered. She had, 20 plus skull fractures. They didn't think she'd survive, and she actually survived with no memory of anything. And this was in a long line of crimes that were taking place in Central Park. It was during a very rough time in New York City's history. It was during a very racist time in New York City's history. The kids were, and they were kids. They weren't older teens like 18, 19. They were children, like 15, 16. They were kids. They were questioned for hours, called liars, told that their friends were giving them up as rapists in the other room. The police manipulated the parents by telling them lies about their kids, saying that if you get your kid to confess, they can go home. So these poor parents, some of them told their kids, like, just tell them what they want to hear so you can come home. I mean, it was the sickest thing. They separated the teens and coerced them into incriminating each other. They fed the kids what to say, and they told them what to write down. They told the kids that they needed to place other people at the actual scenes of the crime. They even gave them the words to use. If you've seen some of the testimony, it's like, oh my goodness, or heard about it. It was a disgusting, racist, living nightmare. And that's what our nation, that's our supposed criminal justice system. The interrogators gave the teens that they questioned the names, the actual names of people who were at that supposed crime site that night, and told them who they were. They didn't know who they were, and had them write it down. And these poor kids were hungry, scared, terrified. They didn't even, one of the guys, I heard him talking, he's saying he had heard other crimes took place. So when they asked to say what the woman was wearing, he just named an outfit that someone else was wearing. I mean, these are kids. This wasn't in the land of internet where we have sophisticated, communication technology. This wasn't during that time. This was a time when kids were kids. And I mean, the kids didn't even know who some of the people were. And it was all a big con. They had to catch somebody and put somebody behind bars. Anton. That's standard operating procedure for the Nazi state of American. Yeah, think about how many, this is a very clear-cut case of horrific criminal activity within our own supposed justice system. This was just a clear-cut case because they had an exact DNA match when the then adults were exonerated. Think of all the other cases in this nation that have basically been setups. It's disgusting. I can't even go there. It was all a big con they had to put somebody behind bars, and they were not gonna, then it had to be a Black person. And that's what they went for, and that's what they did. They had kept these teens hungry, not letting them use the bathroom, telling them that, if you cooperate, you can go home. I mean, it's just beyond sick. It's, I don't know if anybody's watched that. I haven't brought myself to watch it yet, because of time, and also because I studied this. This is the first thing I learned about when I looked up Trump, when I realized that this Trump dude was running. I read about these 5 young teens. And if you don't know what Trump's part in this was, I'm going to tell you. Trump played a part. Anyway, the kids faced 14 to 30 hours of nonstop intense interrogation with no lawyers present, and often their parents or guardians weren't there. Some came at the end. Even though they were just 14, 15, 16 years old, they were denied food, drinks. They couldn't sleep. They were terrified. They were little kids. They were our kids, and we let this happen. And that is, they were told if they identified these people, that many of whom they didn't even know, that they'd be let to go home. They wanted to go home. The detectives coached the 5 young teens to say exactly what they wanted, how to say it, and how to implicate people. It was disgusting. New York City needed to catch the attackers, and these kids were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they were innocent. And the reason I'm bringing this up tonight is, based on the initial interviews, Fairstein knew the teens had no clue whatsoever about the case. Their initial interviews were, from what I've read in a number of articles, they had no clue what was even going on until they were fed the information. These fellas, these 5 fellas, they just wanted to go home. They would say whatever to get home. And this is what they did to them. From what I've read, and I've read a ton, this lady knew these kids had no clue what was going on. I'm sorry. I wasn't there. I don't know her, but I've been reading and reading and reading, and I'm sorry. I think she knew. What do you guys think? I mean, I think it's just, she knew. She knew. They never matched the DNA. Never. Not one of them. Yet she pursued the case as an open and shut case. They couldn't even describe the crime scene. They couldn't even describe the crime. And despite that, and absolutely no evidence to prove these kids were involved, she continued to pursue and prosecute. One accused teen was actually told by the interrogator that one of the other kids had a scratch on his face, and the interrogator told him to include that in the testimony and say he saw the victim scratch him there. I mean, these people were good. I'm talking evil good. Let me try to explain that once more. An interrogator told one of these guys, these kids, teenagers, one of the other fellows that we're accusing has a scratch. When you write down your information, I want you to put that scratch, you saw that scratch happen, and it was the victim that scratched his face. That is messed up. That's like a whole nother level of, there had been a crime wave in the area, and police needed to make an arrest. The nature of the vicious crime was, in my mind, typical of the whole white woman being wronged, no due process, A black person is just railroaded. Somebody must pay, and they're going to find a black person to pay. This is similar to, I guess, the lynching mentality. Garrick, it was, hi, by the way, it was really sick, those interrogation tactics, and even worse, they knew the DNA and the fingerprints exonerated the boys back then, and they needed to be reprimanded for that railroad. Oh, they do need to be. And that's my next question. Did they ever? Thank you for that great information. Exactly what I read. They knew these kids' DNA was not a match. But they had to go for it anyway with all these sick tactics. Like a lynching mentality. Just like a lynching mentality. The case caused such an uproar that a young Donald Trump, living in New York City at the time, or at least he had a place there, spent $85,000 of his own money to run ads saying, bring back the death penalty. He ran ads in 4 of the newspapers in the city. And it was extremely obvious that he was tainting the public opinion against these kids. They didn't stand a chance. A wealthy millionaire decided they were guilty and made sure the public knew. His ads acted as judge, jury, and executioner almost for these kids. He wanted us to bring back the death penalty, and he meant for these kids. Like, otherwise, Trump had absolutely no additional knowledge and was not involved in the case. This was something Trump did to take it upon himself. And he talked about it on shows, on TV, and he took upon it himself, not knowing anything, to make sure that these kids got it. Today, experts acknowledge that the power imbalance, we know so much more today that there's no excuse for what happened. I truly believe they knowingly went after these kids because they had to get someone. For people who aren't familiar with the case listening, the now men served a number of years. I'm not sure I have the range written down of the years they spent imprisoned, having their lives destroyed, their families' lives destroyed, everything falling apart, when the person who really did it confessed to it. He was already imprisoned. His DNA was a perfect match. Today's experts acknowledge, and there's research and everything, that shows the power imbalance of interrogating people, especially when the suspects are young and afraid of police and unfamiliar with their rights and the justice system. It's after losing their innocence and spending 6 to 13 years in prison for the crimes, a serial rapist confessed to the crime, freeing the young men and exonerating them. Anton, Yusef, Corey, and Raymond, and Kevin eventually received $41 million in settlement from the city of New York. And then they got a little bit more after that in 2014, but there's no dollar amount. I'm sorry. There's no dollar amount. They took their lives and destroyed them psychologically, physically. I don't care if they gave them $1 bazillion. It's not enough. During the filming of the Netflix miniseries, Linda Feinstein refused to consult with Netflix producers. She said that if they spoke to the accused men, she wouldn't consult with it. So, of course, the person was going to speak with the accused men. So, very strange thing. The interrogators do this in so many cases to get a conviction, especially if the person is Black or a person of color. So that proves white privilege. Absolutely. Absolutely, Neil. Great point. It is a privilege to be given the benefit of the doubt. And again, in the supposed justice system that we don't have in America, at every turn, systemic racism plays a role. I broke it up into 16 parts for one of the live shows. Every single last turn is stacked against you if you're not white, and also if you're not wealthy and white too. But white privilege is huge. And we have a very corrupt, very, very corrupt justice system. It's not even, I mean, to call it that is a joke. So after this, and there had been documentaries on this horrific occurrence before, but apparently this Netflix one and Trump and his involvement and all that really, really brought it out. Janie, hi, thanks for being here. You're not late, you're just in time for all the, thanks for being here. Anton, it's been like that for centuries. Ain't no number people execute this corrupt so-called injustice system. Yeah. And it's been, absolutely, Anton, it's an awesome point. This is nothing new. I mean, I'm talking about it like, oh, and I don't know if you heard earlier, the reason this case is so big, not because this never happens, this happens all the time. Do you know how many people are found to be mortemly exonerated? How many Black people are put to death and then later found out they were innocent, put to death by the death penalty? This is every stinking turn in our justice system. There is severe racism involved. And every white person should be incredibly concerned about this, because just because they do it more often to people who are not white, people who are Black and African American and brown and indigenous, does not mean they don't do the same damn thing in lesser proportions to white people. Do we want a government that has a system of justice or not? If we do, it needs to be for everybody. If you're white and listening to this and you're not concerned, that's a problem. Garrick, what is sad is that Trisha Maley still, yes, I know, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, still believes they had something to do with the rape, even though Mathis Reyes confessed and gave intimate details of the assault, and the DNA and the fingerprints match. And and I actually have that as one of my next things I was going to say. Yes, stole my line. After the Netflix premiere, great point. Fahrenstein had come under fire for this unconscionable handling of the case. And I really don't know why she hasn't come under fire way before now, but no comment. The fallout for the former prosecutor led to the fallout for the former prosecutors already led to her being forced out of her social media. I don't know. In my mind, whoopie-doo, that's the least of. She's had to resign. I mean, she did a sick, unconscionable thing. She knows how they interrogated them. She knows how they tricked those kids. She knows how they manipulated those children to get them. She's had to resign from 3 of her nonprofit boards. She's also been recently dropped by a publisher and a Glamour magazine Woman of the Year award that she got in 1993. It was rescinded. Activists are calling for boycotts of her book. Here's the thing. I don't know why it's taken this long. I want to know what you think. I don't get it. I guess white privilege, she gets to get away with it. In an op-ed, she defended herself to the Wall Street Journal. I did not read the whole thing, but I saw it because I'm not, you have to actually join the Wall Street Journal to get it. And I didn't do that. She wrote that Ava DuVernay, I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. She's the person who directed and she did this miniseries, this amazing miniseries, depicting the kids in the Central Park 5 case, and then they grew up and are adults now. She claims it was full of distortions and falsehoods, and the now retired prosecutor is quoted as saying that DuVernay's miniseries wrongly portrays them as totally innocent and defames me in the process, was her quote. And that's what Garrick was referring to. I'm going to make a educated guess. She still believes they were part of it. For the love of God. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Many people believe that Trump was the fire starter responsible for the backlash against the kids and their families who received death threats and who were assumed guilty. Yep. Linda Fahrenstein can't admit she was exposed. I don't have any words. I don't know what to say. She allowed children to be lynched. And Trump jumped in and wanted them killed for real, like dead. And there's no words. I don't know what to say. I mean, it became a lynching, this kind of behavior with Trump and her and everyone. Just, they don't care who did it. Someone's going to pay. Decades later, now it's common knowledge that false confessions are surprisingly common in criminal cases. I read a statistic today in the hundreds of post-conviction DNA exonerations. I'll say that again. In the hundreds of post-conviction DNA exonerations. The Innocence Project has studied at least 1 in 4 of the wrongly convicted gave a confession. 1 in 4. False confessions are not, I mean, if you saw how they tricked these kids, oh my God, they tricked them. They lied and lied, and it's so sick. It's just so sick. Yeah, Garrick, the rape victim, Trisha, needs to face the facts. NYPD, law enforcement, and the district attorneys lied to her. Yeah, I mean, I haven't read much of about her, and I feel like her name shouldn't have even been outed. Not by you, but by, she didn't know. She doesn't have a memory of it. She doesn't, I don't know. I can't, she's the victim of this man's sick thing he did to her, and the victim of the sick thing that the New York prosecutors did to these kids and to her, because it was all just horrible. Pat, thank you for being here. Yay. We're just kind of wrapping it up, but we're talking about the Central Park 5, the young teens that were basically put through living hell. And the woman, I'm okay, thanks. The woman who prosecuted, two women who helped with the prosecution, are being outed now after the Netflix miniseries came out on them. And I'm not sure why they weren't outed before, when, there was there's been a lot of stuff out about what's going on, but I don't know. But she is now. It's unconscionable that our supposed criminal justice system is not based on justice. It's based on winning. It's based on power, wealth, and prestige. It's based on money and profit. Lawmakers and activists are now calling for the reexamination of every case that was handled by the people who basically corruptly tried those 5 Black and 1 Latino teens and falsely imprisoned them for a crime they had nothing to do with. When they see us, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is also kind of resisting calls right now to take action on that. But I want to know what you think. What do you think? Should those cases be looked at? They did it once. Years and years, decades later, they were caught. You think that's the first time they did it? I doubt it. Garrick, Matthew Reyes was the East Side killer rapist. He committed more crimes before he finally got caught. When are you going to call me? When I have a chance to breathe, I will call you. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I've been so delinquent. I literally have not had time to, I'm not going to say it, take a bath. I'm just saying. But yeah, I've been very bad with getting back to you. I'm so sorry, Pat. I'm doing the best I can. But is there anything anyone else wants to talk about, or are there any comments? What do you think? Is this fair? This social, attack on this woman who the facts have come out? Is it fair? Is it wrong? Is it right? When somebody does something that's a crime and they work for the public, they're supposed to be working for the public, there has to be transparency and accountability. The standards, there has to be some minimum standards for these people. If you're the president, if you're a politician, if you're a prosecutor, there has to be some minimum standards. Honesty is a very minimum standard. What they did was criminal. Oh, Fadine, hello. Thanks for being here. We're just kind of wrapping up, and I'm really happy you're here. What they did was criminal. Criminal. These are the people who are being paid with our tax dollars. This is in everybody's interest to stand up and make it stop. Anton, that's the police prosecution and judge. That's why they came up with the DNA to to lock up Black people, but it backfired on them, and it's freeing the Black community. And I hope to hell, my personal opinion is, I think because of, yes, Pat, they need to change the 13th and 14th Amendment. Yep, they sure do. And if you want to expand on that, please go for it. What's going on right now, and this is just my white privileged opinion, because our supposed criminal justice system is a joke. It's corrupt through and through, just corrupt. One thing that would be really nice, and I'm not holding my breath, is that anytime anyone is found to have done something corrupt having to do with a racist racism and systemic racism, every single solitary case they've ever worked on should be looked at again. Every single last one. Because supposedly in America, our values have really shifted. We're supposed to believe that we would let an innocent, a guilty person leave before one innocent person was imprisoned. That's a joke of the century. Are you kidding me? Like, huge percentages of people right now in our jails, they haven't even had a trial. They haven't been found guilty. And they've been sitting rotting in prison, lose their family, lose their house, lose their friends, lose their self-esteem, mental health help. This is for profit. The system is for profit. Capitalism and humanism clash really badly. It's not good. So I am going to probably, unless anyone has anything to write, I'm going to probably wrap it up tonight. And I wanted to thank everyone who is here. But before you go, I wanted to tell you this Sunday, please join me in a live show. It's not going to be a very long show, so it's going to start at 9 o'clock. So if you don't get there before 10, it might be over. I'm not really sure. I mean, we'll keep it going. But if you can come, I would love it. It's going to be a Q&A with my friend Thomas, who is a former leader in the Mississippi Aryan Brotherhood. Former. He's not anymore. I think it'll surprise you. I think it's going to be a night you won't forget. He's incredibly open. He's incredibly honest. And he's actually an amazing human being. And I don't say that lightly. And he was a leader of the state of Mississippi for the Aryan Brotherhood. And I want you to come on and ask him anything. Go for it. And he'll answer. I've done a 2.5-hour interview with him. I talked to him, I've talked to him in person after that, and we're actually friends. And he has taught me a lot. A lot. I thought I knew. I thought I got this. Silly me. So I'm going to end tonight in saying, if you believe, like I do, that it is way past time for white Americans to take some racial responsibility and educate ourselves so that we can educate other white folks. Please support me by watching my shows, listening to me blab, participating, coming on as guests, doing interviews, and helping me to get this going. Thank you, Anton. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone's support. This means the world to me, and I want it to eventually get you phones so I do less blabbing and you do more talking. I don't have to read stuff because I want to hear your voices on a phone and have people call in and say what they think and have discussions. And I'm still gonna, thanks, Moppy. I'm still going for having a group conversation on Sundays. I just haven't gotten it set up on my computer, but I have a whole bunch of stuff in mind, and I would like everybody who feels like it would benefit them to be involved and to come on and be part of the discussion, because your voice matters, and life's not supposed to be this way. It just isn't. So if you support me, please get all your friends to join the YouTube channel and check out my videos. I have extremely sweet, darling, nice videos. I have extremely in-your-face videos. I have really angry, pissed off videos. And I have beginner videos for beginner learners who see Trump and see this is not good, and they want to learn. So I have all kinds. Not every one of them is for every person, but please support me by getting people to come to my YouTube channel. And if you want to join a group or teach anything, just get a hold of me. And Pat knows I will eventually get back to you. I promise. I'm kind of slow. A lot of blacks died out there. Yeah. Let me read what Pat has to say. Arkansas, there was a huge massacre that happened that history has completely forgotten about. In fact, it was one of the worst. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's going to be in my video. I'm doing a informative video, like a educational video, I guess you could say, on things that most white folks have no idea occurred in our racial history. Including like sundown towns and just things like that, Black Wall Street and all the other Black Wall Streets, and the destruction of humans, all for hatred and greed. And I know what you're talking about, Pat, and I want that included. There are things that the repercussions of which are still happening. Most white folks don't even know what black codes are or were. They don't understand the Compromise of 1877 and what it did. They don't know that Frederick Douglass was an integral part of black leadership in our federal government with Congress for a while and had input about a lot. And there's just so much we don't know, and white folks need to know. So I'm going to be quiet and say good night. And Pat says a lot of blacks died there. Yeah. Oh, there's whitewashed history, and there's history that just was never told. Talk about history being written by the winners. Disgusting. We need to know the truth. So thanks for being here. And if you want to, please take this video once I put it up and share it on your homepage. I would appreciate it very much. If you're on Facebook, if you're not, it's okay. So I'll see you hopefully this Sunday at 9 o'clock for a Q&A, a very serious Q&A where we will be asking Thomas pretty much anything we want to, respectfully, but we're going to ask him the hard questions, and he's expecting it. Okay? So please join me at 9 o'clock this Sunday. And anyone else who you might know that wants to come. He's doing a Q&A. This is what he wants to do. This is the way he's making good of his life. So thank you very much for watching. And don't forget to PM me. And Pat, I owe you a phone call. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Good night, Stevie. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody, I really appreciate it. And I will say good night. And PM me, and tell me what you think. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Neil.